On the night of March 4, 2022, Eric Richins drank a Moscow Mule in his home in Kamas, Utah. His wife Kouri had made it for him. By morning, he was dead. Eric was 49 years old, a father of 3 young boys. The medical examiner found fentanyl in his system at 5 times the lethal dose. His death was ruled a homicide. His wife, Kouri Richins, was arrested the following year. She now faces charges of aggravated murder. This is her story told through the evidence presented at trial. The prosecution's case hinges on a single question: how did a suburban mother in Park City obtain enough fentanyl to kill her husband? The answer came from an unexpected source. Carmen Lauber, the Richins family housekeeper, took the stand. She testified that she purchased fentanyl for Kouri. Not once, but multiple times before Eric's death. But this wasn't the first attempt, prosecutors say. 6 weeks before Eric died, something happened on Valentine's Day. Something Eric himself tried to warn people about. Eric and Kouri Richins lived in Kamas, Utah, a small town in Summit County about 30 miles east of Salt Lake City. They had 3 sons together. Kouri ran a real estate business. Eric worked in construction and development. From the outside, they appeared to be a successful couple building a life in Utah's scenic mountain country. But prosecutors allege that behind this facade, Kouri Richins was drowning in debt. Her realty business was failing, and she had taken out substantial insurance policies on her husband's life. According to KPCW, prosecutors presented evidence that Kouri's motive was directly tied to her failing realty business and significant personal debt that had accumulated over several years. The insurance policies on Eric's life reportedly totaled more than $2 million. Prosecutors argue this sum would have eliminated Kouri's financial problems entirely. Eric Richins was 49 years old when he died. He reportedly had no history of drug use, no known connection to fentanyl. The question became, where did the drug come from? The answer came from Carmen Lauber. According to the Salt Lake Tribune, the Richins' former housekeeper testified that she purchased fentanyl for Kouri before Eric's death. ABC News reported that Lauber admitted on the stand to obtaining illicit drugs for the defendant. She testified that Kouri asked her to procure the fentanyl, and she complied. Lauber's testimony placed her at significant legal risk. She admitted to drug trafficking in open court. Her willingness to testify against her former employer suggested the weight of evidence or conscience behind her words. But the Moscow Mule wasn't the first alleged attempt. According to KSL, a receipt from February 14, 2022, became a key piece of evidence in the prosecution's case. Investigators believe Kouri attempted to poison Eric on Valentine's Day, when he fell severely ill after eating a meal she purchased. He survived that night. Barely. Eric reportedly told family and friends that he believed Kouri had tried to poison him. They didn't take his concerns seriously at the time. They attributed his illness to an allergic reaction. According to KSL, Eric specifically told others that he thought Kouri tried to poison him. Those words would take on new meaning only after his death, when investigators began connecting the dots. 6 weeks passed between Valentine's Day and Eric's death. 6 weeks during which, prosecutors allege, Kouri Richins obtained more fentanyl and planned her second attempt. On the night of March 4th, Kouri made Eric a Moscow Mule. The prosecution argues she laced the drink with a massive dose of fentanyl. Eric went to bed. He never woke up. ABC News reported that the fentanyl level found in Eric's blood was approximately 5 times the lethal dosage. This wasn't accidental. This was overwhelming. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid approximately 100 times more potent than morphine. A dose measured in micrograms millionths of a gram can be fatal. It is tragically common in overdose deaths across America. But fentanyl's presence in poisoning cases like this one remains relatively rare. Most fentanyl deaths involve recreational drug use or accidental exposure. Deliberate poisoning requires access and intent. According to the Salt Lake Tribune, shortly after Eric's death, Kouri texted about obtaining the death certificate before Eric's sister could get it. She was racing against his own family. The Salt Lake Tribune also reported that Kouri photographed the death certificate and shared it with others, noting, and I quote, "There was a trace of fentanyl." A curious detail to highlight. In the months after Eric's death, Kouri Richins did something that would later draw national attention. She self-published a children's book about grief. While under investigation for her husband's murder, the book was written for her 3 sons. It dealt with the loss of their father. Prosecutors would later point to this as part of a pattern, a mother crafting a narrative while concealing the truth. According to East Idaho News, Kouri Richins faces charges of aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder for the Valentine's Day incident, insurance fraud, and forgery. The trial began on February 10, 2026. The trial has drawn significant media coverage. Cameras are present in the courtroom. Each day, testimony reveals new details about the Richins marriage and the evidence against Kouri. KSOW reported that Kouri's boyfriend testified about text messages exchanged with her. The digital trail has become central to the prosecution's case, painting a picture of premeditation. The defense has challenged the prosecution's narrative at multiple points. They've questioned the reliability of witness testimony and raised concerns about the chain of custody for toxicological evidence. Criminal defense in cases like this often focuses on reasonable doubt. Was the fentanyl self-administered? Could someone else have had access? The prosecution must prove Kouri's guilt beyond reasonable doubt. According to KPCW, prosecutors presented detailed evidence of Kouri's financial situation, bank records, business ledgers, loan documents, all painting a picture of mounting desperation. The alleged motive follows a grim pattern seen in other poisoning cases. Financial pressure. Insurance money. A spouse who stood between the defendant and solvency. But Eric Richins apparently saw it coming. He told people he thought his wife was trying to poison him, and those people didn't act on his warnings until it was too late. This case raises an uncomfortable question. What do we do when someone tells us they think they're being harmed? How seriously do we take warnings that seem impossible? Poisoning by intimate partners is rare but not unheard of. When someone expresses fear of their spouse, taking that concern seriously, documenting it, reporting it could save a life. According to ABC News coverage, the fentanyl in Eric's system was not consistent with recreational use. The massive dosage suggested deliberate introduction, not accidental exposure. Understanding fentanyl's potency matters for public awareness. A lethal dose can be measured in micrograms, invisible to the naked eye, impossible to taste, deadly within minutes. Forensic toxicology has advanced considerably in recent decades. Modern testing can detect fentanyl and its metabolites even in very small quantities, making poisoning harder to conceal. The Moscow Mule, traditionally vodka, ginger beer, and lime in a copper mug, has become central to this case's public identity. A cocktail synonymous with casual sophistication, now linked to alleged murder. The trial, according to East Idaho News, is scheduled to conclude on March 27, 2026. The jury will then decide whether Kouri Richins murdered her husband. If convicted of aggravated murder in Utah, Kouri Richins faces a potential sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. The stakes could not be higher. For Eric's family, the trial has meant reliving the worst moments of their loss. His sister, who Kouri allegedly raced to beat to the death certificate, has attended proceedings. The Richins children, now several years older than when they lost their father, have not appeared in court. Their experience, regardless of the verdict, will be shaped by this case forever. Carmen Lauber's testimony remains the prosecution's most direct link between Kouri and the fentanyl. According to ABC News, she admitted to multiple drug purchases at the defendant's request. Housekeeper testimony in domestic crimes carries particular weight. These are people with intimate access to family homes, routines, and secrets. Lauber saw the Richins household from the inside. The defense has pushed back on Lauber's credibility. Why did she agree to buy fentanyl? What deal, if any, did she receive for her testimony? These questions remain part of the trial record. If you're following this case or others like it, consider the importance of presumption of innocence. Until a jury renders its verdict, Kouri Richins remains legally innocent of these charges. For those researching forensic toxicology, this case illustrates modern detection capabilities. Mass spectrometry can identify fentanyl at concentrations as low as nanograms per milliliter. If you found this examination of the evidence useful, subscribing to the channel helps others find these breakdowns. We cover trials and investigations as they unfold. The Moscow Mule has become this case's shorthand, a symbol of the ordinary turned sinister. A husband accepting a drink from his wife, the most intimate form of trust violated. Eric Richins could not have known what was in that drink. He trusted his wife. According to prosecutors, she exploited that trust to kill him. According to KSL reporting on the trial, text messages between Kouri and her boyfriend have provided prosecutors with additional context about her mindset and actions after Eric's death. The boyfriend's testimony added another dimension to the case. Their relationship began after Eric's death. The timeline of that relationship has become part of the prosecution's broader narrative. Kouri Richins has pleaded not guilty to all charges. Throughout the trial, she has maintained her composure at the defense table, watching as witnesses testify against her. The prosecution rested its case after presenting testimony from Lauber, the medical examiner, digital forensics experts, and financial investigators. The defense now has its opportunity to present an alternative narrative. The Salt Lake Tribune reported that Kouri's rush to obtain the death certificate before Eric's own sister struck prosecutors as significant. It suggested, they argue, a consciousness of guilt. The death certificate itself noted the presence of fentanyl. Kouri photographed this detail and shared it. Prosecutors suggest she was monitoring the investigation's progress. In true crime circles, this case has generated intense discussion. The Moscow Mule detail, the children's book, the ignored warnings, each element feeds public fascination with the darkness that can hide in domestic life. Cases like this remind us that even medical examiners cannot always distinguish murder from accident at first glance. The 5 times lethal dose was the crucial detail that transformed investigation into prosecution. If you or someone you know expresses fear of a partner, that fear deserves documentation and professional attention. Hotlines and victim advocates exist precisely for these situations. Eric Richins told people he thought his wife was trying to poison him. Those people attributed his Valentine's Day illness to an allergic reaction. They had no reason to suspect murder. Hindsight transforms everything. What seemed like a husband's unfounded paranoia becomes, in light of his death, a desperate and ignored warning. The question lingers, could intervention have saved him? The jury in Summit County will soon render its verdict. 12 citizens will weigh the evidence, the housekeeper's testimony, the toxicology reports, the text messages, the financial records. Whatever that verdict, Eric Richins' 3 sons have already lost their father. They will carry this case with them for the rest of their lives. This is Case Files Explained. We've examined the evidence as presented at trial. The rest is for the jury to decide.